hi, and welcome to Should I Stay or Should I Go? Guidelines and strategies for making this life-changing decision as clearly and positively and confidently as possible. I'm David Steele. I am founder of Relationship Coaching Institute, and I want to start this program in what will probably be a very weird way. I want to apologize. I want to apologize to you. I want to apologize to the whole world because I have been struggling with this question most of my life. I've helped my clients when they're struggling with it. In Relationship Coaching Institute, we have included this as part of our training as how do you support a client that's going through this. And I have not gotten around to addressing this question in a webinar to spread this important information around the world until today. It's like, oh my gosh, I should have done this a long time ago. It is a critical question, it's an important question, and the ability to answer it in a way that serves you, in a way that's productive, is incredibly important. So I'm going to start off with an apology. I should have done this a long time ago. So if you know anything about me, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I fell in love with coaching in 1997, and I ended up founding Relationship Coaching Institute because there was no relationship coach training at the time. And I just fell in love with coaching as a very, very powerful, empowering way of helping people that got far better results than I could as a therapist. So short story. In my practice as a marriage and family therapist, I specialized in couples, and it was quite common to have a couple come into my office and tell me that the last therapist they worked with said that they should get a divorce, that their relationship is unhealthy. And I was just appalled whenever I heard that, and I heard it way, way too often. So I want to tell you straight out that no helping professional of any kind, not a therapist, a counselor, a social worker, or a coach, should tell a client to break up or stay. That is absolutely the decision of the client. It is very personal, it's very intimate, the consequences are immense, and so our job as helping professionals is to support our clients to make this decision consciously and carefully. So that is what we're going to cover today. What I am going to share with you today, I take full responsibility for. This is my perspective on it. And I invite you to disagree. That is okay. I'm okay with differences. I don't pretend to have all the answers in the world. However, I do consider this to be a very balanced, responsible way of helping singles and couples make a decision about a relationship they're involved in, or if you are involved in a relationship, that these strategies and these guidelines will help you as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Decision-making factors. What kinds of things go into the decision of should I stay or should I go if you're involved in a relationship and you're considering this? Well, first of all, the type of relationships. Not all relationships are the same, right? You have dating relationships, you have committed relationships. They're very, very different. So the decision-making process depends upon the type of relationship, and we will definitely cover that today. The impact of leaving, not just on you, but sometimes there's kids or family involved, and sometimes, there's a short-term impact and a long-term impact. So a choice you make today in the moment has long-term consequences. And yes, that might sound obvious to say, but when we're in the moment, we often will make the choice impulsively or reactively, and we won't even consider the long-term consequences. Or if we do, we're not even conscious about what all the long-term consequences are. So we definitely need to take in consideration the impact of leaving, and we'll talk more about that today. The choice, is this a conscious choice or is it an impulse? Have you explored this fully? Have you taken in consideration all the factors, including your own part in it? Or is this just an impulsive, reactive choice because you're upset, you're angry, you're frustrated? Trust me, I've been divorced twice. I've been in other relationships besides married relationships. And when I have struggled with this choice, I have struggled with it for years. It wasn't an impulse just to leave. It was a struggle for years. And I totally understand the impulse to want that struggle to be over. Just make a decision, make a choice, and move on. And it is really hard to stay in a situation that is stressful or frustrating. It's really hard. Totally understand that. And so this is why it's important to get the support you need to be as conscious as possible, because the impulse will be eventually, I just want the pain to be over. And then another factor, very important factor, is requirements, needs, and wants. And what I discovered when I got into relationship coaching is that we have different needs in a relationship, and they're not all equal. Some of them are requirements. They are absolute must-have, non-negotiable deal breakers. And if a requirement isn't met, the relationship will not work. And then there's needs, which you need to be happy. You need for your life to work with your partner. You need to feel loved. But they're not necessarily deal breakers. You're not going to get a divorce because of it. And they are solvable. So there is a difference between solvable and unsolvable problems. And then there's wants, and wants are the icing on the cake. Wants are what makes life enjoyable. However, you cannot have a want met and still be happy. The problem with wants is that sometimes we confuse wants with needs or with requirements. And so that's where a relationship coach or having a neutral third party that understands this can really, really help to talk through what's really important to you, what is the critical, non-negotiable deal breaker, and what would be, okay and you could live with if it happened or didn't happen, and what's optional. And as far as requirements, what I found is that these are so huge that you really, really cannot live with the relationship as it is if the requirement is met. Let's take an easy example of that. Let's say infidelity. It's quite common that infidelity will cause a relationship to go in crisis because one partner can absolutely not stand having infidelity in the relationship. So that's an example of a requirement. It is so strong, it is so forceful, you absolutely cannot live with it. Living with it is really, really, really difficult, and it would cause you to break up the relationship, even if the consequences are immensely high for doing so. So when we get married, we take vows, right? We take vows to be together for life. And I would like to think, take those vows pretty seriously. So what would cause us to break those vows, to break that serious commitment that we made to be together for life? There's some huge force that is even bigger than your vow, and I call that force requirements. So there's more to the story. It is possible to live with the requirement of being met, and things change. If, for instance, infidelity, let's say there is infidelity, you can get through it. Maybe you can't live with the infidelity, and that is a deal breaker, but you can work through it with your partner, and you can get past it. So there are situations where requirements aren't necessarily a reason to break up the relationship, but that's part of making a conscious choice. So those are some of the decision-making factors to consider. So next, let's talk about the types of relationships. First, we have dating relationships, and these are when you're single and you are getting together with another single person, and you are not exclusive, but you're getting to know this person, and you might have a few dates, before you decide to become exclusive. Now, this is a stage that some people stay in for years. Other people, on the second date, they're exclusive. So the dating relationship is generally non-exclusive. Pre-committed relationships are when you have found somebody and you've been dating and now you are exclusive. Both of you are not dating anybody else anymore. You have now decided to be an exclusive couple, but you're not yet committed. It is a form of commitment to be exclusive, but it's not a committed relationship. And what's on your mind when you're in a committed relationship is is this the right relationship for me? Should I make a commitment here? It's a very good question, a very conscious question, and this is a stage of relationship that I love, and it's a great stage for relationship coaching to help a new couple, a pre-committed couple, become clear, is this a good long-term fit for you? You know, should you become committed? Would that be a good choice? And then the premarital type of relationship is when the decision has been made. Yes, we want to become committed. We want to get married. They haven't actually done it yet, but the decision has been made. So the question, is this the right relationship for me? Should I make a commitment here? That question has been answered, but the commitment hasn't been made yet. So it's still reversible. Anything can happen, and it's still an important area to explore. Compatibility and building a good foundation for, your long-term relationship, and so that when you do become committed, you have a really, really good start. So the premarital stage is when you've already answered that question and you've decided to become committed, you just haven't taken the step yet. And, again, sometimes couples stay in this stage for a very long time. And then, of course, there are committed relationships. And in today's world, there are all sorts of alternative lifestyles and different kinds of relationships, and we want to honor and respect them all. But committed relationships are committed. And marriage is an obvious form of a committed relationship. It's a legally binding agreement. There are legal consequences. You have to go through a legal process to break it off. But also, you can make a commitment but not be legally married. And, for example, gay marriage, although that's changing real quick. So commitment is quite serious, and we will explore what that looks like and what it means. So I want to share with you that in my office as a marriage and family therapist, and then as a relationship coach, whenever a couple comes in and they are wanting to work with me and they are not married, they're not obviously committed, I would ask them, well, are you guys committed, or, what's the status of your relationship? And I want to tell you that 100% of the couples that I ask these questions say, we're committed. Now, it's quite understandable that if you're going to see a therapist or a coach as a couple, that is a statement that you are committed to your relationship and working on it. So that's absolutely wonderful. But as a coach and as somebody who is aware that there are different types of relationships and my approach is going to be different depending upon the type of relationship, then I need to know. And so I got a little rant for you that illustrates, the difference between committed and not quite committed relationships. So here's my rant. You are not in a committed relationship if your partner is not aware your relationship is committed. I have absolutely encountered this numerous times. One person's committed, the other one isn't. You are not in a committed relationship if you're wondering if this relationship is committed. So there's the attitude of commitment, and then there is the fact or behavior of commitment. And if you're wondering if this relationship is committed, then it's not a committed relationship. I'm sorry. You are not in a committed relationship if you and your partner have differences of opinion about the status of your relationship. I've encountered this numerous times. And I want to tell you a short story. When I became a relationship coach, I started attracting more and more singles and more, like new couples, dating couples. And I had one couple come into my office, and they sat down, and I can still picture them this day. The guy, he had like a Texas drawl, and he sat on my couch, and he leaned forward and said, "We've been dating for 3 months now, and we're real committed." And I loved his energy. He was so positive. He was so strong and forceful about it. Yeah, he really wanted this relationship to work. And then I looked at her, and she is shaking her head. And she said, well, he's committed. I'm not so sure. So here's a couple who have clear differences of opinion about the status of their relationship. You are not in a committed relationship if your friends and family have different perceptions about the status of your relationship. I mean, really, commitment is pretty unambiguous. If the people that know you the best aren't sure about what kind of relationship you're in, then it's probably not a committed relationship. You are not in a committed relationship if you and your partner have not acted to explicitly formalize your commitment in some way. A commitment is formal. Typically, it happens on a certain day, in a certain place, in front of witnesses. Now, it could be the two of you on top of a mountain in front of your God. But if I were to ask you, well, when and where did you become committed? You should be able to tell me. And if your answer is, well, we haven't had our ceremony yet, then, sorry, you might feel committed, you might be acting committed, but you haven't taken the formal step of becoming committed. So this is just my opinion, because commitment is huge, it is important, there has to be a line. And so this is my line, that a commitment is a formal act. You can absolutely pinpoint the day, time, and place that it happened. You are not in a committed relationship if you are relying on verbal promises without a significant track record of them being kept. Now, I've worked with lots of couples where there's been lots of angst from one partner around what the other partner has done or not done. And if they're not in a committed relationship, then, it's almost like you're free to do whatever. You're your own person. And however, if one person is feeling that the relationship is committed and acting committed, but the other person isn't, then that creates a lot of problems. And here's another short story. I had a woman consult with me, and she had been with a guy for about a year, and it was pretty much a distance relationship. They would see each other on the weekend. And then she became really upset because he, quote-unquote, cheated on her. So he dated somebody else. He slept with somebody else, and she found out about it. And she felt very betrayed, and her words were, he cheated on me. So I asked her, well, were you in a committed relationship, or what was the status of your relationship? You say, well, we haven't really talked about that. We've been dating for a year. I just assumed, we're a couple. Well, in her mind, they're a couple. In his mind, he's free to do what he wants. He didn't make any commitments. So, the verbal promises or what you say is not as important as what you do. And, I'm sorry. So, relationships are messy. So you have to have a way of figuring out, what type of relationship is this, and let's be clear with each other. Let's communicate about that. So here's my perspective on commitment. Commitment is explicit and unambiguous. A commitment is a formal event of some kind between two people. A commitment is something you do over time. A real commitment is usually legally enforceable, and there are consequences for breaking it. So I'm expressing this because, to me, it's really, really important, the line between a committed relationship and a not yet committed relationship. The decision-making process, if you're not yet committed, in my mind, is very different from the decision-making process if you're in a committed relationship. So we will cover exactly what that looks like. So for more information and free relationship assessments, including our relationship status questionnaire, which I designed specifically for couples who aren't sure about the status of their relationship, visit coupleforlife.com/assessments. So, dating relationships. Now, there's different kinds of dating. There's at least two. There is recreational dating, which is dating for fun. And then there is what I call committed dating, which is the kind of dating you might do when you are seeking the love of your life. You don't want to just fool around. You don't just want to have fun. You don't want to be with somebody short term. You are seeking a committed relationship. So in my mind, those are two completely different journeys and decision-making processes. The kinds of people that you would choose to have fun with are not necessarily the kind of people that are good long-term choices for a committed relationship with. However, the problem is a lot of people, when they're not conscious of this, which is why I wrote the book, Conscious Dating, when they're not conscious of this, they tend to date and hang out with people they have fun with, and then that evolves into a longer-term, more committed relationship, and all of a sudden, the person they have fun with isn't fun anymore, and it is not a workable long-term relationship. So the criterion for a committed relationship is a bit different from the criterion for a fun relationship or a recreational relationship. So partner selection tools when you are dating include, we already covered the important ones, requirements and needs and wants. So if you know what your requirements are, and you should, then you want to choose a partner that's aligned with all of them. Not some of them, not most of them, but all of them. Because remember, it's so important and so critical that if one requirement is missing, the relationship won't work. It's doomed. So you need to know what your requirements are, and you need to choose a partner that meets all of them. And there's more about that at ConsciousDating.com and in the Conscious Dating book, and it's what we do at Relationship Coaching Institute to train our coaches in how to work with singles so they become absolutely clear about who they are, what they want, what their requirements, needs, and wants are, so that they can go through the process of finding a partner that meets all that. And we work with them on what that process is. So I'd like to talk with you for a minute about screening in versus screening out. Now, screening is the process of determining, does this person meet my requirements? Are enough of my needs met that I could make a relationship work with this person? So you need to, you're not just going to jump into bed, or hopefully, and you're not going to jump into a relationship with just anybody. You need to have some criterion. So that's what the partner selection tools are for. And the process of screening in is when you are finding ways that a relationship could work with this person. So it's like, well, that didn't quite work, but I'm going to give them another chance. Or maybe they had a bad day. So you are finding reasons why a relationship could work. You're screening people in. You are reluctant to reject them. You want to give them a chance. And you're trying to be inclusive. You're trying to be a nice person. Screening out is the opposite, where you are using your partner selection tools to find a reason to say no. And so when you date and you're on, you're online looking at, internet matchmaking profiles, or when you're having coffee with somebody, you are looking for a reason to say no. The most immediate reasons are going to be your requirements. Other reasons involve chemistry, that thing that we can't really measure. It's either there or not there, but we can definitely feel it. And what I found in my, dating life is that screening out is by far the more effective and efficient. That, yes, it might be scary to say no to so many people so quickly, and you might feel like you're being a perfectionist or you're being unrealistic, but the reality is if you are clear about who you are and what you want, and you meet somebody and there is a very definite reason to say no, then say no. Because I'll tell you another thing I learned, which is whenever there's a red flag, in the beginning of the relationship, when you first meet somebody, often you will identify a red flag. And we're almost always aware of it. It's not like it sneaks up on us or we weren't aware of it. We knew about it. In every relationship that I've ever had that broke up, it broke up because of a red flag that I knew about at the very beginning. Now, maybe I'm weird. Maybe it's just me. Maybe that's not you. Maybe I don't think so. It's a very, very common experience. So screening out is a very, very effective way to, determine, is this a good long-term choice for me? And in order to get what you really want, you need to be able to say no to what you don't want. So you need to be available. You need to, seek the love of your life. And the way to do that is by, when you meet somebody that is not the love of your life, and you can see that from the beginning, say no. So, settling. The role of settling in dating. What I found is that just like screening in versus screening out, we as singles, often we don't want to be alone. We have dreams. We have a vision of what we really want for our life, but part of us tells us that, that's not really going to happen. That's just a dream. And so we tend to be tempted to settle for the best we can find or the best we think we can get. And what I've learned is that when we settle for any less than what we really want, we're not going to be happy. That is always going to weigh on us. It's always going to be part of the relationship. So it doesn't go away. It's not like, okay, I'll accept this 80% relationship and I'm going to erase the other 20%. It's not going to be there anymore. Well, no. That 20% that doesn't work for you is always going to be there. It's going to interfere with the relationship working. So when you are single, these are critical decision-making tools that you can use to find the love of your life and make that choice and decide whether to stay or whether to go. So for more information about that, please check out consciousdating.com. I have a cool thing for you. I have a dating red flags checklist. And this is the same checklist that's in the book, Conscious Dating. And you can get it for free at consciousdating.com/free-stuff. It's a dating red flags checklist. So it'll really, really help you if you're single and you meet somebody. You look over this checklist and it'll help you identify red flags. And if there are any red flags and you're practicing screening out, what are you going to do? You're going to, say, nice to meet you, and move on. So, some suggestions and guidelines for pre-committed and premarital relationships. So, the decision-making tools of requirements, needs, and wants definitely fit here. Another part of that is your vision, and another is your purpose. So your vision is what you want for your life. It's this inner image that you're carrying around inside you. It's your dream that you want to make real. And it's your path that you're following to make that real. And you want to be with a partner that supports that and can be part of that. And so when you're in a relationship and everything seems to line up, make sure your vision lines up as well. And another aspect of it is purpose. So your purpose is your reason for living. It's your reason for being on this planet. It's what gives your life meaning. Now, your purpose might be to serve God, or your purpose might be to, have children and raise them and have a family and be a mom or a dad. Those are completely valid purposes, and you need to choose a partner, be with a partner that supports your purpose, that allows you to pursue your life purpose. So those are some examples of decision-making tools, the same kinds of decision-making tools that you would use when you are single and dating and choosing a partner, so choosing somebody to hang out with. You would continue to use those tools in your decision-making. Is this the right relationship for me? And the decision before you're committed of should I stay or should I go, my bias, now this is just me, you might disagree. My bias is if it's not a good long-term fit, if it's not going to support your vision, your purpose, your requirements, needs, and wants, then, say no. Walk away. It's the relationship, although you're attached, although you might even be in love, the relationship is very real. Breaking up is hard to do. But avoiding the pain of breaking up is not a reason to continue a relationship that it's going to end up doomed anyway. It's harder to break it up later when you're committed. It's far easier to break it up earlier. Now, as a relationship coach, I've had the privilege of working with pre-committed and premarital couples. And sometimes they're clear that this is the right relationship. Yes, let's become committed. Let's get married and live happily ever after. And that is wonderful when you can do so with such clarity and confidence. And on the other hand, I've worked with couples and they've come to the decision Not because I told them, but because I led them through the decision-making process. You know what? This is not a good long-term choice. I love you. I'm in love with you. I really, really want this relationship to work, but I can see that it's not going to work, and that is heart-rending, and I'm really sad about that. But to honor you and who you are and what you really want, and for me to get what I really want out of my life, we have to break up. And as a relationship coach, it is such an honor to be part of that process and to help them get closure and to help them say goodbye, in a very honoring, positive way. Because in order to get what you really want, you must say no to what you don't want. But that's very different with committed relationship. But we're not talking about committed relationship. We're talking about pre-committed and premarital relationships. So the concept of evolve versus push versus twist. When you allow a relationship to be what it is, to evolve as it is, normally, naturally, then you get to make a conscious decision based on what is. I am guilty of pushing a relationship, of wanting to be further than it is, of wanting to make it work. And I have personally experienced that that's dangerous. It doesn't work very well when you push a relationship. And twisting is trying to twist a relationship into something that is not. So, for example, I recall a couple who came into my office as a marriage and family therapist, and they appeared to be in love, and they appeared to really want their relationship to work, and it turns out that they were both having an affair with each other. They were both married to other people, and they fell in love, and they came to me as a couples therapist. They wanted to live happily ever after together, but they were both married and they both had families. And, I couldn't change that. I had no magic wand. They were trying to twist their situation and their relationship into something that it wasn't. You're not available for each other. And yeah, you could, both get divorced and be together, but you got to make that choice, and it's going to be hard, and it's going to be devastating to both you and your families and your kids, So we have this tendency, though. We have our dream and our vision, which is normal and natural to have, and then there's the reality, and it's tempting to try to twist the reality into being what we want it to be. And so, just watch yourself, or watch when you have a client or a friend that's doing that, because we do it. It is very tempting. And again, the dangers of settling, we already talked a bit about settling in pre-committed and premarital relationships. You are attached. You are in love. You really want this relationship to work. The cost of breaking up seems high, including the emotional cost. Breaking up is hard to do. But trust me, it is far easier to do before a commitment. And if the relationship is not a good fit, and I don't mean, by fit, let's talk about fit for a second. Fit, what I mean in terms of not settling, fit is 100%. Now, most people, when I tell them that, will tell me, oh, you can't expect that. That's not realistic. Well, yes, it is. Now, let's say you go to a department store and you're looking for a jacket. There's a lot of jackets in that department store, and you try on a lot of them, and a lot of them don't fit. But chances are, if you keep on looking, you'll find one that does. And the cost of choosing one that doesn't fit is you're never going to quite be comfortable in it. It's never going to quite look good on you. You're always going to kind of regret, buying it. So as long as you're going to make a choice to go after what you really want. 100% of what you really want. It is possible. I know, because after a lifetime of settling, I finally got 100% of what I really want. And I do not recommend multiple divorces in order to get there. By all means, I do not recommend that. However, if you are conscious, if you are in a position to make that choice, go after 100% of what you really want. It is possible. The minute you tell yourself it's not possible It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Of course it's not going to be possible. So part of what we do as relationship coaches, one of the very important roles we do for singles and for pre-committed couples is, we support them to identify what is 100% of what you really want and to help them identify the choices that would align with that. Now, it's not up to us to tell them that's good, that's bad, that's right, that's wrong, that's a good choice, that'll get you 100%, that won't. It's not up to us. The client already knows. So we're just asking them the question. We're helping them achieve clarity. And clarity has a lot of power. A lot of power. When you think about it, a lot of the confusion and opaqueness in life, should I, shouldn't I, maybe this, maybe that, that's really hard. Clarity is like clearest day. Of course, this is the best choice. This is the right choice. This is how I can get what I want. So as coaches, that's what we do with our clients. We help them achieve that clarity. And then the choice becomes obvious. We don't have to tell them what it is. They know what it is right in front of them. That's the art and science of coaching right there. So the danger of settling is it's so tempting, and we have all these voices in our head that tells us that what we really want isn't possible. 100% isn't possible. We don't deserve it. It's not going to happen. You have to take this or be alone. And that is fear. That is all fear. False expectations appearing real. It is not real. However, it is what drives a lot of relationship choices. So, for more information about pre-committed relationships and premarital relationships and a very cool pre-committed relationship assessment, please visit coupleforlife.com/free-stuff. So, let's talk about committed relationships. Very, very different animal from dating relationships, very different from premarital or pre-committed relationships. Totally different conversation. And I'm sorry, I can't help myself. I just have to play this clip. Love the one you win. 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 Sorry about that. It pretty much sums up committed relationships. The answer to should you stay or should you go probably is love the one you're with. And I'm going to explain exactly why. However, I will cover very, very clear guidelines for when you should break a committed relationship up. So it's not that I'm saying you should not ever, ever, ever break a committed relationship up, but the bias, the commitment of making a committed relationship work is so important that you break it up as a last resort. That's very different from screening out, which is you find a reason to say no and you break it off as soon as possible so you can go on to find what you really want. If you're in a committed relationship, breaking that commitment is a last resort. And so let's talk about why. First of all, do you know what the benefits of a committed relationship are? I mean, we seem to be driven to make commitments. Most people tend to seek a committed relationship, not hang out in a relationship kind of laissez-faire forever. Most people want commitment. We have a drive towards commitment. And why? What are the benefits of committed relationships? So first, this is my favorite one, regular, safe, good sex. Committed monogamous partners have more and better sex than singles and non-committed partners. Second, companionship. We're social beings. We're comforted by closeness. Married people are healthier, happier, and live longer than singles. Third, intimacy, emotional closeness and love and trust and mutual support. It builds and improves over time in a committed relationship. It's much more difficult to achieve in quality and quantity outside of a committed relationship. Sure, you can be friends, you can support each other, you can even experience intimacy, but there's something about a committed relationship in which really you can really build that and evolve that over time far beyond what you can in a non-committed relationship. So fourth, family. Both children and adults seem to thrive in an environment of stable, long-term, multi-generational relationships. Fifth, economics. Committed couples are financially more successful than singles or non-committed couples. And given that economics is how you survive, it's how you pay your bills, it's how you eat and have shelter and provide security for your future and your family, it's no small thing. Six, community. Extended family and neighbors and churches and other forms of networks of supportive relationships thrive on the stability of committed relationships. Seven, mental, emotional, physical health. The research shows that married adults live longer and have fewer mental, emotional problems when they are in committed relationships. That's just the facts. That's just the research results. So let's talk about some research results on happiness and divorce. First, 2/3 of unhappily married spouses who stayed married reported their marriages were happy 5 years later. This is a study that I read about in the book The Case for Marriage by Linda Waite and Maggie Gallagher. And this one fact, this one research finding blew me away. I wish I knew this when I was a marriage and family therapist. Because if I were able to give my couples hope, you know what? Stick it out. And the odds are 2 out of 3 that in 5 years you'll be happy. That's what this research result means. That 2/3 of unhappily married spouses who stayed married reported their marriage was happy 5 years later. The most unhappy marriages reported the most dramatic results. Among those who rated their marriages very, very unhappy, almost 8 out of 10 who avoided divorce were happily married 5 years later. And in the book, they call this the marital endurance ethic. What a great name, marital endurance ethic. You stick it out, and things change. Things will get better. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a rainbow at the end of the rain. And when you are in a relationship and you are stressed, you are frustrated, you are in despair, remember, things change. Things will not be like this forever. So that's important information. Next, unhappily married adults who divorced were no happier than unhappily married adults who stayed married. So, okay, if this is true, and research shows you divorce, you're not going to be any happier than if you stay married. Well, might as well stay married. Consequences are a lot less. The cost is a lot less. And there's 2/3 chance you stick it out 5 years and you'll be happy later. Next, unhappy spouses who had divorced and remarried were no happier on average than those who stayed married. And this is, when we divorce, we expect that we're going to be happier. We're unhappy, we divorce, we expect, and we want to be happier. And the research is showing that is just not true. That doesn't happen. Next, many happily married spouses have extended periods of marital unhappiness, often for serious reasons like alcoholism, infidelity, verbal abuse, emotional neglect, depression, illness, and work reversals, meaning unemployment. So, yes, when you're married, when you're in a committed relationship, times get tough. Times can even be very, very tough. Times can even be, awful for an extended time. So even happily married couples go through awful periods as they get through it together. Next, unhappily married adults who divorce were no more likely to report emotional and psychological improvements than those who stay married. So you would think that you get divorced from an unhappy marriage, that you would become a happier person, a healthier person, you would grow and evolve as a person. The research shows that that's not correct. Now, this is research, right? This is statistics. So this is about, what happens with most people. There's lots and lots and lots of exceptions. And also, as I'm speaking, I don't want you to get the impression that, I'm dogmatically saying don't get divorced ever. That's not what I'm saying at all. Right now, I just want to share with you some important research results that I came across. So, next, to avoid divorce, many assume marriages must become happier, but to get happier, unhappy couples must first avoid divorce. And this is really interesting because I can't tell you how many times as a marriage and family therapist I work with a couple who, one partner was very, very unhappy and they would not participate in, making the relationship work unless the other partner changed. And it's like the message is, well, when you change and I'm happy with that, then I'll change. Then I'll participate. It's totally unrealistic. It's really, really tough to work with those kinds of couples. So to avoid divorce, many assume marriages must become happier, but to get happier, unhappy couples must first avoid divorce. It's simple, but it's profound. In most cases, a strong commitment to staying married not only helps couples avoid divorce, it helps more couples achieve a happier marriage. Commitment by itself. Remember the marital endurance ethic. Commitment is like the glue, and when you are committed to your relationship and your marriage and your life together, you find a way to make it work. The commitment means not having any exits. And exits include a mental exit, dreaming about what it would be like without this partner, or a physical exit, like having an affair. So, we've gone through some research results. Let's talk about when you should break a commitment. I want to provide you some very, very clear guidelines that you can use to decide if and when you should break a commitment in a relationship. In other words, if you're married, if you should get divorced. So, since unhappiness is usually related to unmet requirements and needs, can you find ways to get them met outside the relationship while honoring your commitment? So, are your requirements and needs, are they realistic? Is it realistic to expect that this one partner, this one relationship can meet them all? Can you find ways to get them met outside of the relationship in ways that support the relationship and support you? So, for example, let's say one of your requirements is to have a family, to have babies, to have children, and your partner absolutely refuses, or they agree when you got married and then later on they refuse. I've encountered that. Okay, well, can you find a way to have children in your life, have family in your life, without actually having babies? So the idea here is that happiness often is really an inside job, and often the unhappiness we create for ourselves because we're expecting our partner to make us happy and the marriage to make us happy, and happiness really needs to start from inside us. So when it's related to an unmet requirement or need, can you find ways to get them met without needing your partner to be the one to make it happen? Second, are the children better off in or out of the situation? There's a famous quote by a famous question that Dear Abby always used when addressing this question. Are you better off with them or without them? Are the children better off with you or without you? And often in an unhappy relationship, the children are fine. The children are better off with you together. Now, it's quite common where there's an unhappy relationship and it really bleeds over into the children, and it's a terrible environment for them. But take a look at that. If it's important for the children, in fact, I've seen a lot of couples stay together for the children. They're miserable together, yet they stay together for the children. And the children benefit from it. And then the children go off to college, and, they become adults, and then these empty nesters who were miserable together, all of a sudden, they've been together for 20 years. Now they start having more fun together, they start reconnecting, and now they're happy. So that's quite possible. So remember, things do change. And there are no such things as a relationship emergency. So even if you're unhappy, even if you're feeling in despair, like right now, tomorrow's another day. There is no such thing as a relationship emergency. If it would be better for the children, I have seen lots of couples stay together for the children. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be a very, very good thing. So that's another consideration. Third, what is the position of your family and friends? I found that it's uncanny how they knew all along what we discover much later. So, do a little research and find out what other people, how they perceive your relationship. Oftentimes, they might give you feedback like, you know what, she is the best thing that ever happened to you. Don't let her go. Or, he is just sucking you dry. I saw that from the beginning. You guys, you are not good together. So it doesn't mean that you should actually, take their advice. But it does mean that, looking in the mirror and looking at your situation through other people's eyes can be very important information. Fourth, are you really taking full responsibility? Now, you need to take responsibility for yourself, your life, your happiness, your choices, your thoughts, your feelings, your wants, and your needs. And if you are resentful, if you're blaming your partner in any way, then you're not taking full responsibility. You're giving your partner away. You're being reactive to what your partner says and does. So as adults, we should take full personal responsibility for our life. And even if you're unhappy and it's a relationship and there's other person, is participating in you being unhappy, you should be able to clearly identify your contributions and how you are making yourself unhappy in the situation. So, take full responsibility. Learn how to do that. It's something very important to look at. It's an important reason to work with a therapist, counselor, or coach, because this is sort of a developmental issue. Because if you're not able to, if you haven't learned yet how to take personal responsibility, none of your relationships are going to work. Your life is not going to work. You are not going to be happy no matter what. Because the whole world is going to have to bend over and give you everything you want in order for you to be happy, and it does not work like that. So you do need to take full responsibility, and are you really taking full responsibility? Very important to look at. Number 5, what about your commitment? If the odds are that the odds are 2 out of 3 that it will work out if you stick it out long enough, can you hang in there? Can you take responsibility? Can you focus on your attitude and what you are doing? Great quote here. Life is not what happens to us. Life is what we do with what happens to us. So what about your commitment? You made a commitment. Are you going to honor that commitment? Are you going to do everything you can to honor that commitment? 6, are you getting the support you need? Are you really using that support? I can't tell you how many times I've seen people struggle with their relationship and they're doing it all by themselves. And, get support, friends, family, neighbors, ministers, church community, counselor, therapist, or coach. Don't do this alone. Get support. Put yourself in the hands of somebody that you trust, somebody that seems wise and objective, not somebody that agrees with everything you say, not somebody that makes you feel good about yourself. In fact, it's better to trust somebody that challenges you a bit, because they see, the areas of growth that you have. They see the blind spots that you have. Don't just be with, friends or people that, make you feel good and, they agree with everything you say. Find a wise and understanding friends and mentors that can, that you can both relate to. Do this as a couple. So get the support you need. Do not do this alone. You shouldn't even consider breaking off a commitment if you haven't really gone through the journey of getting support for your relationship. Because no one is successful alone. And of course, who am I to, I'm a relationship coach, I'm a therapist, of course I believe that. But I really, really, really do believe that. 7, are you and the children physically and emotionally safe? Commitment is not a reason to stay in an abusive or unsafe situation. So sticking it out in a committed relationship and, 2/3 odds the relationship will be happy 5 years later does not apply to abuse at all. However, I will say that sometimes we call things abuse that are simply, people acting out stressfully in the relationship, raising their voice, name calling, things like that. So we have to take a look at, what is abuse versus what is just, frustrated acting out that's within normal range. And that's another reason to get the support that you need, get some outside objective opinions about that. Number 8, what is your true underlying commitment? If you would leave because you're unhappy, your commitment is to your own happiness, not the relationship. Be honest with yourself about the difference between your commitment and your attitude, what you're saying and what you're doing. So if a committed relationship works because of commitment, commitment to what? Commitment to the relationship, not commitment to your happiness. In fact, what I've found, and this is from the radical relationship material that my wife and I are starting to develop, you can check that out at radicalmarriage.com. A happy, fulfilled relationship is more likely to happen when both partners, are committed to each other's happiness. I am committed to my wife's happiness 100%. She is committed to my happiness 100%. What a great deal. I work to make her happy. She works to make me happy. That's a partnership. That is what I want for all couples. So what is your true underlying commitment? If it's to your own happiness, what about your partner's happiness? Don't be like those couples that were in my office saying, well, he's got to change first. I'll change. I'll be different when I'm happy. That doesn't work. So be honest with yourself about where your commitment is. Is it to the relationship or is it to your own happiness? If it's to your own happiness, I'm here to tell you that not only is this relationship going to work, all other relationships aren't going to work because you're being, honestly, selfish. So commitment to the relationship is what makes relationships work. That's the foundation. 9, have you really tried everything? I can't tell you how many couples I've worked with where one of the first things they said to me when they started working with me was, we've tried everything. Now, they haven't. That most of the time they've done the same thing over and over expecting different results. And you know what that is. That's the definition of insanity. But you know what? They believe it because you don't know what you don't know. They don't know that there's things they haven't tried. They really believe they tried everything. They tried everything they know. Well, what about the things you don't know? Now, I have found that in life and in business, there are always solutions. And most of them you're not even aware of right now. And so if you're conscious of that, you're aware of that, there's information here, there are ideas and strategies that I don't even know yet. What you can do is you can search for them, you can explore, you can be open to them, you can brainstorm. Seek and you shall find. So this is really cool, where you don't have to have the answer. You can stay in the question. So instead of, why is this relationship not working? How can I make this relationship work? I don't know. I tried everything. Stay in that question. How can I make this relationship work? How can this relationship work? I don't know. I'm going to read books. I'm going to talk to counselors and therapists. I'm going to go to workshops. I'm going to explore. And answers are going to come because you're open. Staying in the question means that you're open to the solutions. So this is a very, very cool approach to life and to business and to relationships. You don't need to know all the answers. You don't need to have the solution right now. All you have to do is stay in the question. So when you feel like you've tried everything, trust me, or trust Robert Schuller, you haven't. Because he says, when you've exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't. So those are my 9 things to consider for when should you break off a commitment. And all of this will be downloadable on this same webinar page after the program when we post the recording. So don't worry, you don't have to take all these notes. I have some resources for you, all of them, consciousdating.com for singles, coupleforlife.com for couples, radicalmarriage.com for radical relationships. And if you'd like to become a relationship coach or explore that, you care about relationships, you have a passion for relationships, you really want to help others with your relationships, and you really see that relationship coaching is the way to go as opposed to being a therapist or something else, then please do visit relationshipcoachinginstitute.com and check out our Relationship Coach Starter Kit. It's free. So, at this point, that's everything I got. That's my best take on how to address should I stay or should I go. I've done my best to provide you clear information and guidelines for if you're single or a pre-committed or premarital couple or a committed couple, what you need to know and the tools and strategies that you can use to help you make that decision, should I stay or should I go? So, I'm going to look at the questions that came in. And thank you, John. He says, great job, David. John also says, you answered all my questions. Okay. Renee is asking, what if your spouse is not committed to your happiness, but you are committed to theirs? Well, that's a great start, Renee. Definitely keep your commitment to their happiness and, stay in the conversation and see a counselor, therapist, or coach. Go to radicalmarriage.com and look at the videos together, especially radical intimacy. Intimacy, we want to love and be loved in a relationship. I mean, that's why we're here. That's important to us. It's not just about, having dinner together or paying the bills together or convenience or even sex. It's about intimacy. So there's a program that Darlene and I did on radical intimacy that I'm very, very proud of. And even your husband, who doesn't seem to be committed to your happiness, I guarantee you that you watch this video, you talk about the strategies, you practice the strategies, that, that'll shift. So it's a journey. There are steps to go through. There's learnings to go through. Sometimes to change an attitude, you need to look in the mirror, identify the attitude, and choose a different attitude. Sometimes to change an attitude, you need new information. Sometimes to change an attitude, you need inspiration or an example or a role model. And sometimes to change an attitude, you just need a strategy. You need something different to do, and then when you do it, your reality will be different and your reality will change. So with guys, that often works very, very well. So don't try to change their mind. Don't try to change their feelings. But focus on strategies and doing stuff differently, and you'd be amazed at how their feelings and their attitudes will change. So please do check that out, radicalmarriage.com, especially the radical intimacy video and all the strategies in that, which is free, no charge. David, you sounded very energized and intense about this topic. Yes, I'm passionate about this topic. Yes, there will be a recording after the program. It will be available on this same website that you're on right now. Let's see. So even if you've chosen wrong and settled for someone, if you're married, then you should just love the one you're with. Well, yes, kind of. What I'm saying is, use those 9 strategies, do everything you can Because chances are you made this choice and you made this commitment for a reason. And so if nothing else, there's learning to be gotten out of it. Unchoosing the relationship, getting into another relationship, isn't necessarily going to change anything unless you do everything you can in this committed relationship. You know, it's a karma thing, or, you know, there's something going on here where if you just jump from an unhappy relationship into another relationship, what I've found is it's not going to make you any happier. And the research results that I shared with you bear that out. So in my mind, if you're in a committed relationship, like you're married, you should do everything you can and give it all the time in the world that it needs. You know, when I got divorced, I didn't get divorced because I was unhappy. I ended up getting divorced after, you know, my first marriage was 10 years. My second marriage was 8 years, but we were together for 10, 11 years. I struggled with the choice. We struggled with the situation for years before making the decision. And so it's not something to take lightly. It is a last resort. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying go through the journey, do everything you can, try the strategies that I shared here, you know, take in consideration the guidelines that I shared about should I stay or should I go, and get a divorce or break up if you're in a committed relationship as a last resort after you truly have tried everything. Because then, whatever language you want to put to it, your karma will be clean, and you will have done the work to work through whatever relationship issues have caused you to choose that relationship, and that will help you choose better the next time. It will help you have a better relationship the next time, and that's really the goal. I mean, you know, I didn't want to get divorced. I really, 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 really did not. However, I look back on it, and I see that that was a necessary journey that I had to take to be where I am, to be with the love of my life, to really live happily ever after. Now, that's my journey, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but we all have our own journey. Okay, let's see what else. The answer often depends upon religious beliefs. Abuse and or addictions seem to impact most decisions. But you know what? The research shows that abuse and addiction is actually a small minority of divorce situations. A small minority. Yes, it's true. Yes, it happens. In fact, my second marriage broke up because of addiction, but it's a minority. Most people get a divorce when they could have made it work. They just cut it off too early because, quote unquote, they tried everything and they're just miserable and they didn't want to be miserable anymore. And you know what? We can't blame them. But it's a very individual, very personal choice, and if you want to make that choice as consciously and as best possible, then I've done what I can to give you those guidelines and suggestions today. Let's see, Kim is asking, do you have tools to assist couples that are divorcing but still residing in the same residence? Yes. It's called relationship coaching. It is absolutely possible to divorce, be divorced, go through divorce, and live in the same residence. However, it's really hard to do that on your own. You need support, you need guidance, you need structure, you know, so please do get the support you need. I really do believe that we can accomplish pretty much anything with enough support. You know, you can get to the top of the Empire State Building with the right team on your side. You can fly to the moon with the right support. Almost anything is possible with the right support. And if it's not happening, then get the support you need. So, Kim, that's my best answer. Yes, residing in the same residence when you are divorcing or divorced is absolutely possible, but get the support you need. Let's see, Jay is saying, I just broke out my engagement with my fiancé 5 weeks ago. Very interested in participating in the webinar. I've second-guessed myself since then. Thanks for hosting this event. Jay, I sincerely hope that this program has helped you stop second-guessing and be more confident in your decision this is what I've wanted when I was struggling with these situations. Should I stay or should I go? I probably spent half my adult life struggling with this question. And having, clarity or confidence in the decision is something that I've just longed for. And now, 56 years old, head of a relationship coach training organization, thousands of coaches trained all over the world, have studied and explored relationships up and down and sideways. And, I can finally share with you what I've come to in order to be confident and clear. Let's see. Here's a long question, but the bottom line is that here's one partner who's with another partner who has let go of her physical appearance. They have children. They're married, and they want sex. They want a physical connection, but the partner is not interested in physical connection. Has let herself go physically, so they can't imagine spending the rest of their life without having physical intimacy, and does not want to leave their children or break up the family. This is a wonderful, wonderful example of, it looks impossible. But you know what? It's not impossible. However, you don't have the answer right here, right now. I would recommend that you and your partner take a look at the Radical Intimacy video at radicalmarriage.com, and then graduate to the Radical Sex video, and also get the support you need. But what I've found is that in sexless marriages, and that's essentially what this person has, there are a number of reasons for a sexless marriage, but it doesn't have to be that way. But you definitely need both partners becoming a team. And so when you stop blaming, and clearly this partner is blaming, her for letting herself go and not being interested in sex. When you stop blaming and you become a team, we're married, we have a relationship, we live with each other, we have a family. What can we do to make this work? What can we do to live happily ever after? What do you need? How can I make you happy? And here's what I need. I'd like to talk with you about what I need. Are you willing to listen to me and work with me and meet me halfway? Those kinds of conversations will help shift the situation. And getting the support you need. Don't do it alone. Let's see. Kylie is sharing a great quote, and it says, "From now on, my aim will not be to search for someone who will please me, but to please the one I have chosen." That's from Andre Moreau, The Art of Being Happily Married, 1953. Thank you, Kylie. Thank you very much. That's a great quote. It does reinforce, my learning, my principle that to have a fulfilling, committed relationship, we need to be committed to each other's happiness. And we've been together for an hour and 15 minutes. Those are all the questions that have come in so far. I thank you very, very much for coming today, for sharing this time with me. This has been a very important program that I've wanted to do, I needed to do, I should have done a long time ago. And I hope this has been helpful for you, for your own life, for people that you care about. And I hope you will bring this information. If you are a counselor, therapist, a coach, I hope this will be helpful for you in working with your clients in your practice. So thank you very much. And if you are interested in more information, please do check out ConsciousDating.com for singles, CoupleForLife.com for couples. If you want to become a relationship coach or check us out, that's free, RelationshipCoachingInstitute.com. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now.